Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to today's airsofting video. So what I am actually going to be doing today is we're going to talk and compare which one is better in terms of handguns. Big hand cannons or baby pistols. So I have actually a few lined up here that I'm actually going to showcase. And I'm going to talk about just pros and cons of both. Because these are kind of on the wide ends of the spectrum with giant handguns to the right, small handguns to the left, and then in the middle is where you find like your 1911s, Glock 17s, P226s, and so on and so forth, pretty much middle-sized pistols. So we're just going to again talk about the big and the small, the pros and cons, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Alrighty, so to start, what I have first in front of me here is the Dan Wesson 8-inch CO2 airsoft revolver. So again, admire the beauty of this thing. It is absolutely massive. I mean, 8 inches for a barrel for a handgun. It is insane. It is definitely some similarities to the revolver that was used in The Walking Dead, but this, of course, is much different than that. But again, just to give you a size reference, my hands are pretty big. Now, with me holding this thing, you can just tell exactly how large it is. It has extreme power, extreme range with a proper weight BB. And overall, it's pretty lightweight. The nice thing with this that contributes to the lightweight is the plastic and hollow hand guard, or hand grip, I'm sorry, which opens up, of course, for the CO2 cartridge. Everything else in front is metal, so it definitely is front heavy. So for being so large, it's definitely a hassle to basically hold this thing. You do need a specialized holster, which they do have one for these size revolvers. But again, that's just one thing to consider if you are going to be in airsoft games. You may want to pair this with a decently sized holster that fits if you purchase a sidearm this large. So this can be kind of a pro and a con. First of all, it looks amazing. So just the positives of it, it's going to look really badass. It's going to look intimidating to other airsofters on the field. And again, it just looks awesome. That's kind of the positives with it. The negatives, of course, you have to spend money to get a custom holster that can fit this thing. You have to worry about, of course, flashing it around while you're running and using it. It's going to add more weight to your mobility. I guess another negative aspect being a revolver is you're stuck with 6 shots. So typically the bigger pistols don't really hold a lot of ammo. Of course there are exceptions. This one is different. It holds barely any. But some of the other hand cannons I'm going to show here hold up to 20 plus rounds. So again, just some quick positives and negatives with this particular gun. So I'm actually going to switch it over to the next couple hand cannons that I have, and then we'll get on to the smaller baby pistols. Alright, so I'm sure you already imagine what next big pistols that I'm going to be bringing in, and that of course would be the Desert Eagles. So in front you're seeing 2 different brands and 2 different manufacturers as far as Desert Eagles go. So this chrome one that I have here is a green gas / propane WeTech blowback Desert Eagle. This black one right here is the KWC CO2 full and semi-automatic Desert Eagle, also blowback. So let's take a look at these one at a time. So the chrome Desert Eagle, again looking beautiful, is also extremely massive. So this, of course, for a main sidearm is going to be, again, for the bigger guys. Ones that can, again, hold on to this thing, be able to lug it around, have it hit your shoulder, or not your shoulder, your hip when you have it holstered. Again, this is probably going to be for the bigger airsofters because if you're maybe smaller hands, it might be a little bit of a tricky situation with using this thing. That's just kind of one of the negative features. I would say the other one is weight. This one weighs about almost 3 pounds, if not, like, maybe it's close to 3, if not 3 pounds. Again, you have this immense travel of a slide, which easily can maybe snag on something, maybe on your uniform or you're wearing like a vest or something, maybe if you bring it too close while you're holstering it, it might maybe get lodged somewhere there. That's kind of some of the negatives with it, just because this thing has a lot of sharp edges, so it can catch on things. So like this can catch on like your shirt or your vest. These ends too, the actual iron sights. Again, nitpicking things, of course, but maybe these are things you consider, and maybe these things could be some pain points for you if you do deal with large sidearms. But again, this thing is amazing. This is kind of the positive aspect of it, is you have a gorgeous looking sidearm, super intimidating because of its size. It's the iconic Desert Eagle. You can't really get more intimidating than that. 50 Action Express replica. So again, it is just going to win over a lot of looks, and of course just having this thing in your hand is super duper satisfying. Now I'm going to turn the spotlight over now to the KWC Desert Eagle, which actually is a little bit lighter than the WeTech, and the reason for that is the lower frame is all plastic, the upper is all metal, whereas on the WeTech it's all metal essentially, except the handguards. Magazine, again, it's CO2, so there's not a lot of weight here because of this cutout. The CO2 cartridge itself is not that heavy to begin with. This one has a shorter travel, and it has the full auto function. So a lot of positives there. But again, getting into the negatives is there's a lot of just cumbersome mass here. A lot of gun. So again, it's going to be a pain to holster. Another one of those guns that's going to need a custom holster to, again, house the pistol to where it's not wobbling too much and to where it's not so tight you can't even pull it out without damaging your holster. Same goes for, again, the WeTech Desert Eagle. Again, the nice thing with this is it's a full auto sidearm. So it's like having a heavy mini Uzi as your sidearm, because with this you can knock out 20 shots without a problem. And it's just very satisfying. I mean, a full auto Desert Eagle, you can't go wrong with it. But again, that's just a quick overview of the big beast hand cannons that I'm featuring. So I'm going to turn it over now to the smaller sidearms, and we'll take a look at those. Alright, now the other side of the spectrum for small baby pistols. So, of course, I'm going to feature the Glock 42 that I have in my collection. Super duper small, very, very lightweight. Again, here's my hand for reference. It's very, very small. If I put a Desert Eagle next to this, huge difference. I mean, it's massive. It's literally, Desert Eagle weighs as much as probably 3 or 4 of these, just to give you a weight perspective. Again, it's, first of all, super agile. Again, it's very quick to navigate, to move. There's not a lot of parts that would snag, and yeah, it's just really tiny. There's not a lot of positives to it. I would say the negatives start to come into the fact that it'll feel probably flimsier. You have a much less mag capacity. But of course, all the small firearms that I have here, or airsoft firearms, replicas, whatever you call them, of course, this is going to win over the revolver because the revolver is just a 6-shot. These, of course, are going to have a little bit more. But, again, you're going to be dealing with a very low gas... I'm trying to think of the word. The gas efficiency is going to be poor on this because, again, it has such a small gas reservoir and a small BB capacity. So that's some negatives already right there for a sidearm, which you don't want to be left stranded and only have 10 shots and have only basically 10 shots worth of gas that these can hold. So that's some negative things there, but of course there's pros to it as well, as I've mentioned. So I'm actually going to now show the other baby Glock that I have, which is a little bit bigger than the G42. It actually has a little more weight to it, and it's a full auto and semi-automatic Glock by WeTech. So you kind of have a perfect package here, especially if you pair this with an extended magazine. Again, the other nice thing too is you have a very small slide, less travel, so meaning more gas efficiency, similar to also the Glock 42. You have, again, the full auto capability. Let's see what else. Lightweight, that's the other thing too. As far as negatives, not a whole lot, honestly, with the Glock 26 pistol. I feel like this definitely has a lot of potential as an awesome sidearm just because of some of the features that I named off for you guys. So for that one, it's definitely has its pros, it has its cons, but definitely more positives than negatives, that's for sure. Lastly, I have this one is almost to the moderate level when it comes to functionality and sizing of sidearms. This one, I chose to put it in the smaller pistol category just because it really is a small and super sleek, tiny pistol. So again, if you compare it to a Glock 26, I mean, there's probably like an extra six, maybe, no, like maybe half an inch, uh, basically of barrel for this. So it's a little bit bigger in terms of barrel length. So overall, it's very tiny. You're going to have very, very small BB capacity and gas capacity because, again, it's a very small and narrow magazine. This one has very limited functionalities. It's just a semi-automatic Tokarev by SRC. Nothing really crazy here. As far as sidearm goes for efficiency, SRC in general isn't so great, but just generally speaking with Tokarevs, they're not going to be as efficient with BBs or gas just given the size of the magazine. Power, of course, too. The barrel is fairly short, which actually that's another thing that I failed to include is those last two Glocks have very short barrels, meaning shorter distance and weaker power in terms of FPS. So comparing to the revolver and the two Desert Eagles, larger barrels, larger range, and of course power. So some of the positives with the Tokarev is it's lightweight and it has a very awesome feel to it. It's very comfortable, similar to a 1911 style. Some of the negatives, though, again, you have things like these iron sights which protrude out pretty high, so meaning they can get snagged on your clothing when you're trying to unholster it. You have, of course, small magazines, which is poor on efficiency, and of course, trying to just think of some other things on the fly here. I would say those are the main ones. The nice thing too with this is it's somewhat of a almost close to the middle range pistols to where you don't need a crazy custom holster to fit. It's going to be sleek enough to fit in a lot of generic holsters similar for the size pistol. So again, what we're going to do right now is just a quick recap of what I talked about. Okay, so we had a chance to get very informative between the two pistol groups here. Obviously, the sidearms, small or big, have their pros and cons. So I've kind of highlighted some of them as I spoke about each pistol. So now I'll do kind of like a high-level highlight of basically pros and cons of the pistol group. So large sidearms, again, the negatives of it is it's big, cumbersome. It's probably going to lack in efficiency because of all the weight that it's moving, and I'm counting the Desert Eagles in this because it's a lot of weight that needs to cycle, so therefore a lot more gas consumption to, again, move that slide back and forth. The protruding pieces like the selector switch, the iron sights, just the length of the pistol itself, so unholstering it is going to be a problem. It may snag, it may get stuck. So if you find yourself in a tricky situation, that might put you in a bad spot if you can't get your sidearm out to, again, just get some of that cover fire going. Some of the other things, too, would be holsters. So to holster a sidearm like this massive revolver or this massive Desert Eagle, again, you're going to need probably a different style holster if you don't have one already, which, again, involves spending more money. So you already invested money in your sidearm. You're going to have to invest additional money for a larger / custom holster to, again, house the pistol itself. So real quick, rattling off some positives about the big guns, though. Again, intimidation factor. Huge, awesome looking, and as anybody sees it, they're going to be like, oh my god, he's got a Desert Eagle, or oh my god, he has a giant revolver. That is just sketchy. Yes, that's definitely a positive because some people prefer that. Some other positives. Longer barrel. So longer barrel on both of these means harder FPS and, again, just more range overall. Of course, depends on the BB weight, but those two, of course, are included depending whatever BB you really use. Let's let's see some of the other things that we can include here. I would say more so, yeah, just the range. FPS is going to be pretty high. The style slash view of these pistols, again, they look amazing, intimidating, and so on and so forth. Some of the other perks, if you have a full auto sidearm, super, super, super helpful, especially as a backup in tricky situations. So that's just highlighting some of the key points, pros and cons of the larger sidearm family. Now let's quickly recap on the babies of the sidearm family. So again, the smaller pistols. So of course, some of the positives with the smaller pistol, they're a lot more mobile, which of course the big guns are not as mobile just due to the weight and size. These are mobile, easier to walk around, to again, aim is again one thing. You can aim quickly without having a lot of extra dead weight to, of course, pull. Now again, you may be thinking, okay, these things don't weigh all that much. But again, when you're fatigued after playing a game for a couple hours, it's going to definitely make a huge difference, I tell you. Some of the other pros is we have, of course, the full auto capability of some of these baby pistols. This kind of applies the same for the larger sidearms. You have full auto, you have less travel. Less travel meaning more gas efficiency, meaning there's less gas being consumed, you're getting more power, you're getting more shots out of your magazine without having to fill up the magazine as much with gas. So again, a pro there. A negative aspect to that is you have a smaller magazine, smaller BB capacity. So again, you're going to be reloading more, you're going to be filling your gas up more. And I would say that would be more so some of the positives. I kind of started intermixing positives and negatives right off the bat, but they kind of intermix essentially. I guess some of the other negatives, I don't know if I've mentioned already, but again, the barrel length, a lot shorter, a lot less range, a lot less of an FPS to consider. So again, smaller firearms, or I keep calling them firearms, I don't know why. Smaller replica firearms, how about that? Are going to have less efficiency, less range, less FPS, less travel. So negatives with a positive in there. The other positive to it is, again, holster size. You're not going to need a crazy big holster to fit these. You're going to probably just need a standard sized holster that's maybe universal to a lot of these kind of pistols. So again, probably less money you need to invest there if you already have a holster. That's pretty common. So again, I feel like I got off on a tangent in some areas, but overall we're talking about pros and cons of both families here. I think for the most part I would have covered a majority of things. And one other thing I did forget to mention is unholstering the small sidearms. It's a lot easier than the big ones. That's another positive. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I hope it made sense. I hope that you learned a little bit more about which one is better. You got a chance to see pros and cons on both sides of the family. Hopefully this will help you maybe choose which firearms or sidearms you'd like to go with when you are picking your main sidearm. So again, you get a variety. Again, these families are huge. You have the big gun family that has a ton of big sidearms. Same with the intermediate and smaller sidearms. There's just a ton to choose from to really personalize your airsoft loadout. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you found it informative. Again, feel free to ask me any questions in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching.